Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA. Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of spring finds up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of fresh reasons to rack.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Vince, Calvin Klein, Rag & Bone?
Obsessed. Why do we rack? For the hottest deals.
Save on Madewell, Kate Spade New York, Sam Edelman, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbifs Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. Top 14, Pro de Deux, National, bars, restaurants, fans, songs, and particularly this weekend, the French national team in the Six Nations. Yes, it is Rob doing the intro, don't be alarmed, it is a midweek bonus episode. Richard is still here. Richard, how are you?
Good, yeah, excited for what's on the agenda this evening, Robert.
Yes, because we do not just have Richard down the end of the line. We have Ellie and Eddie from Spritz and Scrums, which is very, very exciting. Are the leading journalistic voices of Italian rugby in England, I'd say. In the English language. I think we can get that far.
Well, too kind. Let's go with that.
It's very kind. I think there's some people that might argue with that quite strongly, but we'll whatever. We'll go with that.
Good, they're not
I'm backing you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you for having us.
For anyone that hasn't listened to these guys or isn't aware of Spritz and Scrums, they've been going longer than us. And also Ellie is actually a bona fide Italian, which helps. Whereas as our name, the Rosbifs, hints at, we are very much English, but they're kindred spirits in the realm of kind of championing the whole experience of food and drink and fans and experience.
Exactly.
So,
It's what it's all about.
Actually, I think, people that was listening around December time, you guys also helped us out or helped me plan a trip to Italy that I had to keep secret from Richard, which was actually only 3 of us out of 6 of us made it to the rugby, but we had a great time. So
is that from
a lovely time?
Oh, amazing.
We did not do Padova justice. I think.
Or did you do it too much justice?
No, well, maybe on the Friday night we were in a
Small
very nice
windows where justice is done, but I think we did Petrarca rugby justice with a fantastic afternoon in the sun drinking.
Oh, did you drink Spritz?
We had all sorts. We had the Chinar Spritz.
Did you? Well done.
You had Spritz, and did you watch Scrums?
We watched Scrums, yeah.
Well, then you did it all. Yeah. That's Spritz and Scrums. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. We lost we have a trophy that we do for like a game, which I was the last one to be touching it. We lost a trophy at Petrarca, and we went back the next day, and I don't know how you don't annoyingly there were quite a lot of trophies like on the windowsill, rubbing it in. But
Wait, so someone nicked your trophy?
I don't know. I don't know where it went.
What was the trophy for?
We basically play a predictions game every year. So in January, you say kind of Six Nations winner, for example, or Champions League winner, and Euro exchange rate, the average house price, like name a contestant on Strictly Come Dancing. There's like 40 categories, and then the winner of that gets the trophy. Then we have our kind of annual Christmas trip, which is what our trip to Padova was. And the winner gets the trophy, or did get the trophy. I love
that. And you won it and then lost it?
No, that was the worst thing.
Oh.
I was just, the person that won it lives in Australia, so...
Oh, no!
So I was as the key administrator of the ball games of the competition. I was left in charge with it, which I think was probably a bad idea.
Oh,
Well, how did he take the news that you'd lost his trophy?
The group was very understanding and very very laid back. Didn't make a song and dance about the trophy that's been a key part of the tradition going missing because Rob fell asleep. It was all taken in good humour.
You say like people gave me stick, Richard, but at least I was alive on the Sunday, whereas like 60% of the group were basically non-existent. So yeah. Anyway, talking of rugby experiences in Italy, there is obviously a big one coming up this weekend. You guys were at the Wales game?
We were at the Wales game in the rain, although luckily we were not wet. We were very well shielded.
Yeah, I didn't actually realise how heavy the rain was till I watched it back on TV.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, that looks awful.
Yeah. Yeah, the Olimpico is very well covered and we were right at the top. We have our kind of favourite spot to watch the game from and you'd never know that it was even raining.
So, Rich, you've been to the Stadio Olimpico for a rugby game. I've been to the Stadio Olimpico for a football game.
Roma or Lazio?
Roma beat Barcelona 3-0 in one of their greatest nights ever.
That is amazing.
It was genuinely amazing. But
what year was that?
2018.
Yeah, okay.
They needed to win 3-0 at least to get through to the next round. They lost 4-1 on aggregate in the first leg, and then there were people crying in the stands. It was amazing. But I don't remember much about the match experience other than it was non-alcoholic beer. There was a lot of smoking in the stands.
Yeah.
And down by the river, like by the steps, there were loads of guys drinking like these small bottles of something. And me and my mate were like, well, we got to try one. And it was like this, it was like a small thing of like coffee liqueur. It was amazing. I don't know if they do that for the rugby or not.
Well, no, for the rugby, you can drink beer.
Yeah, so you don't need to preload on tiny things of coffee liqueur. Rich, how was your experience of the Stadio Olimpico when you went? Have you got any tips for our listeners who might be going to you?
No, I was hoping that's what we're going to ask Ellie and Eddie about. It was
tips.
7 years ago. It was England, Italy, obviously. Yeah, it wasn't a great game. It was pretty good. It was good atmosphere, nice walk to the ground. Couldn't help but pine slightly for the years of the Stadio Flaminio as we walked past, which looked in a slightly sorry state. Yeah, I mean it was great fun. I dare say maybe like the English contingent not the best to be there with on a Sunday. I think we finished the night. It was the Super Bowl possibly, and we were waylaid by some very obnoxious English fans telling us how rich they were in a bar in Rome in the morning. But other than that, it was great, and we flew in via Malta. That was our way to cut down on flights, and we had
That's amazing
at the time. So yes, but I'd probably defer to the experts on what the key tips are.
Right.
Well,
here we go.
Go on.
Go on, Eddie.
Number one, Italy. And I'm not sure if France does this, but
this is the most important tip.
Has a very interesting queuing system. Okay, where you queue, you pay, you get a receipt for your drinks, and then you join another queue. You've got to go to the back of another queue and then queue up to actually get your beer. And realistically, they sort of stand there, they look at the receipt, and as if they don't know what you're going to have. And it's like, listen, like you see all these people in kilts, they only want one thing, just keep pouring beers. But they don't really do that. So what you've got to do is you've got to go early. I don't mean to get to the stadium early, but the first time you get to the receipt person, all right, say there's two of you, you order 2 beers several times. All right, so you have many receipts, all for the correct number of beers, and then you never have to get in that bloody queue again because you have your receipts already. Then they become literally like beer tokens.
Yeah.
You turn up, another receipt. Otherwise, you'll just keep getting screwed by the same queue. You can also just buy a bulk, a massive order of beer, but then you will end up with a little bit of a slowdown because someone will end up looking for a biro to cross off the drinks as you buy them. They're not used to that system. You're kind of improvising. But you can also do that.
But that is the key tip. If I had one tip, that would be it.
That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, if you haven't bought your tickets already, is sit near an aisle. Because in the stadium itself, there are these dudes that walk up with these massive, like, they look like Deliveroo kind of things. They're just huge things of beer that they've got. Right? But they will sell them to you at your seat.
And it costs the same as if you're
Yeah, I can't remember if
buying them.
it's €5 or €7. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And also they semi-make up the price a little bit, so they'll round it up for their own convenience.
We were there the other day, and the guy next to me only had pounds. He had £5, and the beer was €5 or something like that. And he was just like, the guy selling them was like, just give me the pounds. Like,
Yeah, he's been ripped off, to be fair.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But also like they will round it up. They'll make it up a little bit.
Yeah.
They'll take the piss. You don't have to be like worried about it. They're not out to get you, but they've just got loads of stuff going on. So if it rounds up to 25 because it would have been 22, you might have to just suck that up. But you are getting beer brought to your seat.
Yeah.
The Stade de France they had when we were there for the All Blacks game, they had like a seat like drop off, wasn't there, Rich? Like a person next to me, like some girl next to me, like her parents had bought just the weirdest thing. It was like a bag of like popcorn, a bottle of Coke, and like a beer were just delivered to the people next to us.
Amazing.
They came up. It was really weird.
Wow, like through an app or something.
Yeah, and then we were in like some of the cheapest seats. So
That's really cool.
what is the beer in the Stadio Olimpico these days?
It is only exclusively, entirely Peroni.
Yeah.
Is it the red Peroni though?
The Italian one, yeah, the good, like
That's the better one, isn't
the
it?
opposite of the one that we have here.
It's actually a little bit confusing, I think, because
It's
well, it's not
Peroni.
confusing. Out in like the fan village, that's sponsored by Peroni, Nastro Azzurri, the Peroni we have here. So everything out there is that, but in the stadium itself, I think it's the red Peroni.
Yeah. But basically, if you
But
don't
no
like
Guinness.
Peroni,
Basically,
yeah,
Guinness.
yeah.
The Guinness Six Nations
Yeah.
aren't selling Guinness.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not.
And what are the food options like? Or do you just go before?
Not bad, actually. No. They do have decent options. Like,
If you find yourself caught out and you're hungry, there's food. And there's
Yeah.
also food in the stadium itself, like hot dogs and burgers and stuff.
once you go through, yeah. But in the sort of villagey bit outside, which actually is probably improved since you were last there, Rich, it's now got like a big screen where you can watch the other games, which it didn't used to, which I thought was so stupid. For years it just didn't have anything, so people were forced to leave. Now it's got a big screen, there's loads of different food stands, and then inside, yeah,
I've never eaten before the game. I've eaten after the game, bit drunk, but obviously it's quieter then because lots of people have left.
but no, it's well kitted out, and it's got like fun kind of
The
activation
activation
things.
stuff is actually really good in Rome. So they've got, I don't know if you've ever seen one, like a line out pint pouring thing that Peroni have made. So it's basically a beer tap, which is like
A 3 meter tall beer tap,
yeah, like 3 meters high. So you two people have to line out lift you,
and then you get to
and then
go
you
pour
and it's still like overhead height or around about head height, and then you've got to pour your own pint while they're lifting you.
yeah,
That's
So
absolutely amazing.
it's amazing. It is really, really good.
yeah, that's worth doing. That's good fun. And then typical, competitive scrummaging machines.
Yeah.
So you can actually see your kgs of how much you push, and you can compete against your friends because the machines are next to each other. They've got another thing where you pass a ball through a hole.
And win stuff. Yeah, no, it's cute. They've done well. I think they've done pretty well. I have got feedback for them, but
All right.
What about the après? Because the après at the Stade de France. So obviously France love like these late kickoff, 9 p.m. local time. Like the Wales game is 9:15 local time.
I love it.
So Rich, for the Stade de France, you went with your dad and you were out there as quick as possible, whereas we were still going at like outside the ground at like 1:30, 2 a.m. It's all the French.
That's amazing.
The French après match is pretty wild. Like it is just a big party of
Yeah.
dancing and songs, and they do this like weird crowd surfing.
They have
thing.
got, yeah, they've got a stage with like sort of big Italian bands
they've
afterwards.
got a stage, and sometimes the players will come out on that stage,
That's cool,
and
yeah.
that was all cool.
That's
when they beat
Yeah.
they beat Scotland, obviously that was quite big, so people wanted to see the players.
They all came out. That was good.
But generally, that's a bit away from where the big screen is, and I normally want to watch whatever the game is after. Yeah,
But no, I do think the French do it. The French seem to party harder
yeah.
from what, like, because they take their rugby.
It's
I
win,
don't
lose or
think
draw
it's-
as well. Like
Yeah.
I've been to Stade Chaban-Delmas in Bordeaux, I think 4 times now, and I've seen them lose 4 times. It's still absolutely wild.
That's
Like,
great.
afterwards.
We'll actually have
So-
to we'll have to pick their brains at the end of this, because we have Benetton are playing Castres. in Nice.
We have already flagged that for the end
Great,
of this
great,
podcast.
great. Let's crack on then.
We
Oh.
went to Cast in September.
So you won't
Let's
be
get
going
it.
for that.
Rich, you might go. Rich, you know.
Probably
Rich
no,
is a
probably
Cast
not.
fan.
I'm a
Probably
bit
not.
of a Cast fan.
Are
but
you
I think twice in the season might be a little bit much, but
keen? Bit keen.
we'll see. We'll see.
But the main event is obviously on Sunday. I guess straight up, how do you guys feel about Italy v France? The draw last year.
There's a lot of
Italy, have one defeat in the last 5 or something like that, isn't it? Or brilliant
Yeah,
record,
yeah,
and 2
yeah.
home wins, and
At the minute, it looks good. As in, it looks the record, their immediate record is pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Whether it stays like that at the end of the Six Nations, who knows? But at the minute, it looks good. And then 2023, that was close as well between Italy and France.
Yes.
yeah.
That was a losing bonus point for Italy, I think. So,
We have, I've recently, over the last couple of days, the Six Nations keeps resharing the end of last year's game, which has given me what I thought was a trauma that I'd gotten over. It's kind of brought back a lot of PTSD from that final kick.
it's the clip of, and you'll know but all these players because they're all in France. It's the clip of Federico Mori with his head in Martin Pedrello's lap because he can't watch the
Can't
kick.
bear to watch.
And then the kick happens. He hears a yell. He looks up like expectantly and then just collapses. And then Martin Pedrello is just sitting there, rubbing his eyebrows and his head, just not blinking, just completely distraught. And then to add salt to the wound, Brex had to tackle someone into touch to end the game, so they can hang on to the draw, and it was just horrific.
Yeah, so at the minute I'm kind of going through that all over again, which is, as I say, something I thought I'd got over and I haven't.
Because you've got to remember that was more traumatic than it seems now because they hadn't got the wins.
Yeah. So
And France were at that point still just about 6 months after being favourites for a World Cup.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was as close as Italy had gotten to winning in a Six Nations for a very long time. So for them, it was real, like...
And if you remember the beginning of the game, Italy was so on the back foot and so under pressure from the French forwards. It looked like it could be another cricket score.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the way they managed to like stop the flow and
The thing about that, which actually is almost slightly triggering now and links us to this fixture. I remember the beginning of that game. There is a bit of play for one of the tries where there is like a telepathic relationship between Maxime Lucu and Mathieu Jalibert, who since that has basically got scapegoated for that. They both basically got scapegoated for that draw. Lucu hasn't played since then for France, has he, Rich? I don't think.
I don't think so.
He's been in the squad, but he hasn't played. He's kind of been usurped by Nolan Garrick, who's the hot young thing, who has been very indifferent in the first 2 games of this Six Nations. But he's back. Jalibert is gone by all accounts, or he's ill. So he's gone back to Bordeaux. So I tend to try and wear a themed bit of stash for everything.
Love it.
I've gone Ubebe because I stand with Mathieu and I stand with Damien Penaud, who has also been dropped, which is just the wildest thing. Rich, go on then. Like, what are your thoughts on the rumours / the probable selection of Ramos back at 10, Barre at 15, 7-1 split, no Jalibert? Go on, Rich. What are your views?
Oh, I hate it. I think we spoke last week about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and it does feel a little bit like that's what's happening. I don't really get it. I certainly don't. I don't know. We love Teo Atasogbe. He looks like he's taken up a position on the right wing, but I don't think he's a more effective winger at the moment than Damien Penaud is. And as for the kind of 7-1 split, I think. Has anyone done it other than South Africa?
No,
I don't think they have.
First time for anyone other than South Africa.
I don't know. It feels like a bit of a pale imitation because when South Africa were doing it, they were bringing these truly monstrous units off the bench to basically grind teams into submission. And with the exception of Roman Taufifenua, it's not. I don't think that is going to have that effect. I could be wrong. I'd be intrigued from a sort of Italian fan perspective as to. You see those rumours of the French team selection. Do you think we like it? It gives us more.
We were really confused by it.
What the hell's going on?
I mean, in all honesty, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
Because South Africa have got a way that they play rugby. With the bomb squad, it's a thing that they do, and they play rugby in the style of that. But the 7-1 doesn't go to what I think of, which is Dupont doing lovely stuff, and you've got the winger that looks identical to Capozzo.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see him. I don't really.
I don't get it. I mean,
and also I don't get it because unless it's done out of fear, which it's not. But if you remember when Benetton beat La Rochelle earlier on this season, it was the pack that dominated the La Rochelle pack, which took us by surprise. I think it took lots of people that watched it by surprise that the Benetton pack, which is mostly of the Italy pack, were able to front up in such a way. But I still think a 7-1 split is just an odd thing to do.
Italy's scrum has been really, really good in the last 2 games.
And it's going to be better this time.
Yeah.
Because Spagnolo's back.
So unless they're thinking that Italy's scrum are utter beasts and they need to shut, I just don't get it. Or they're doing the opposite and kind of going like, this is something we've wanted to try for a while and Italy is shit. Let's just try and do it against them. But I think that I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt that that's not what they're thinking. But
I think it's more likely to be that. And I think there is an element of hubris there if it is like Italy a crap sort of thing. Yeah. I think it might be Galtier kind of is, it seems that he's very loyal and he has his favourites. And looking at the guys that are on that bench, so rumoured to be Marchand by Azzurri, Taufifenua, Jelonch, Jegu, Rumat, Luku. I'd say Jegu is very new and he's obviously favoured by Galtier because he's brought him back in a controversial storm, which now seems to be over. But the others, guys like Azzurri, shouldn't be in this squad. Like he's just not the second best tight head in France by any stretch of the imagination. But Jelonch, Rumat, Taufifenua, by Marchand, those are, guys that were the cornerstones of the team that was very, very successful between kind of 2021 and 2023. They are very, very good players. Maybe it's a case of he just wants those guys, he trusts those guys, and he wants them in and around the squad. But it still feels, I can't get my head around it at all. Because
also, do you think it could be like a smoke and mirrors thing? Because it was announced quite early on in the week. How does something like that get leaked?
I don't know, but they seem to be, it's kind of like the Times here with the England team, the like Rugby Rama and Midi Olympique seem to get it spot on every time.
Right.
And they get it on like the Monday afternoon. So yeah.
So weird.
But the thing is, they have like a lot. There's so many like journalists that talk about bib theory. Like I think the France training is quite open. Like a lot of journalists go to the France training, and so they're just watching it, and it'll be like up on screens. Like, I've seen some journalists like take photos of the screen as it like flashes up, and it's like the blue team versus the white team, and like the white team is total caps like 40, and then the blue team is like Dupont, Ramos, like Aldrin. And it's like, I wonder which one might be the test match team. So I think they kind of do. I'd be amazed, given the furore that there will have been in the social media and the French media around this. I think L'Équipe and Midi Olympique are getting stuck into Galtier for this because it just seems a bit weird. Soon as anything happens with Mathieu Jalabert at the moment, it's news. Like whatever, the fact he's ill is news, and it's like inverted commas, he's ill and stuff like that. I also don't think you flirt with the idea of dropping Damien Penaud. Like that doesn't seem like a smoke and mirrors thing.
Yeah,
but,
unless that's like a buck your ideas up.
Well, supposedly he's been dropped for his lack of intensity in defence in the previous game, but I wouldn't say he's ever been the most intense defender. Like you don't pick Damien Penaud for Manu Tuolangi style defensive hits, do you? You pick him to be a little bit weird, and then when he gets the ball, do something crazy and magical. It's strange. I think we were saying after the previous game that we were actually in favour of going back to 5-3 kind of thing, and their bench dynamic has been undynamic. It's been really bad this Six Nations, going with the 6-2 and particularly the 6 that they've gone with. Had they gone 6-2, it looks like it would have been more like a more dynamic, impactful, with the likes of Taufifenua, who's a massive unit, and like Jelonch is refining his form, which is great, and he's looking really powerful at the moment. So yeah.
So who would be the one? The one in the
set? Luku, who would
fly half, isn't he?
He's scrum half, but then if
quite often plays 10 or goes out to 10.
Yeah, quite often for Bordeaux, he'll do 60, and then like at the weekend, I think they took off Joey Carberry and he moved to 10, and then they brought on a scrum half for Joey Carberry.
I mean, it might be a blessing in disguise for Italy, a 7-1 split, because Italy's injuries at the minute are quite heavily stacked on their wings.
Yeah.
So they're missing Lewis Liner. They're missing Paolo Adogwu. Now they're missing Monteone.
Yeah.
So they're going to end up with some
Tiny wingers.
what we call the whippets.
Yeah.
Out
You
there.
guys are quite big fans of, is it Jesse?
We are super fans of Jazzy.
Tell us more about him.
If you don't know about Simona Jesse,
Look up his highlights. If you haven't, if the listeners don't know Simona Jesse, look up his highlights for Zebre Palmer. They call him the eel, and he gets through spaces and makes magic happen in a way that
very
single rare
time.
players.
It's incredible because everyone knows he's the eel. Like, you know, in the URC now, everybody knows about him because he's been kind of Zebra's. I'm going to say.
Well, he was the top prize
player.
scorer for a long time in the URC last season, playing for Zebre Palmer that weren't winning any games, and I think that says a lot about.
So everyone knows what he can do, and yet every time he gets the ball, somehow he just wriggles through 4 or 5 tackles every single time.
He puts himself in really good positions. He's almost impossible to tackle. He's not big. He runs like he's running away from the police.
Yeah.
Like he literally runs like he's in a movie running away from the police.
He's fantastic. And he's got much better this season in his defense. That was one of his issues, was just in defense. But him, if you look at, you've got him, you've got Capozzo, again, whippet, small. And on the other wing, you've got Jacopo Trulla, who's another small guy, small wing.
But there's also Matt Gallagher, who scored a really great solo try for Benetton at the weekend. And he could play as well. And then also Tommaso Allen's been playing at 15.
Surely Matt Gallagher is not an international class fullback.
I don't think he is. I don't think
he was a bit of a journeyman even before he went to Benetton.
Well, no, but I was saying they've got some injuries now. Also, I know he's played. Meh. No. I mean, I would. He's not. Look, he's not a player that when he's picked, I'd be excited about.
No.
But then also, when you're talking about Italian depth, it's also not dropping. If you end up with him in the squad, it's not like dropping down to something which is, I think, completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
But the list of injuries is in that particular region, and then also Tommaso Allen playing at 15.
I mean, he's very much kind of...
Probably means you would again have Capozzo on one wing, and then the conversation loads of Italian fans were having is when, everyone was agreed that we want Simona Jesse to play, but when do you play him? When do you give him the opportunity? Because Monty, I don't know what he's looking like that much in the top 14 at the minute, but I can only watch some of the games. But Monty's shirt is basically sort of, in general, nailed on.
Right? When Leon are a bit up and down as a team, but when him and Niniashvili click together, they can just rip teams apart. They are brilliant to watch.
That's amazing.
He's still a standout winger on his day in the top 14.
Yeah, and actually, in the first 2 games of the Six Nations, well, no, that's not fair. In the first game of the Six Nations, he was not great, but then he came out against Wales and he put
them under so much pressure.
Yeah. But so it'll be interesting.
God, I miss him at Benetton so much.
Yeah, don't.
He was just so great at Benetton. And then he left. And then we had him on.
I thought he'd left Italy, though, at that point. I thought he was gone.
He was. He went to play for the Melbourne Red Bulls for a year.
Yeah.
And then he moved back to France. There's a lot of rumours that
he left. He left. There like some personal stuff going on, and he left. And then we had him on our podcast, and we asked him because then he came back to play for Italy, having not been back to Italy since.
And it was Japan.
And it was against Japan at the Stadio Menigo, Benetton's ground. And he said he'd never been so nervous before a game because he had no idea how the town would sort of receive him since he sort of left quite quickly. And
but he scored
a hat trick.
And people were chanting his name.
And the whole stadium was chanting his name like a movie.
Yeah, it was great. But sorry, going back to your point about the 7-1 split, Eddie's point about it maybe benefiting Italy because they're a little bit short on the wings at the minute.
Yeah, so, if you're in that situation, you wouldn't want too much choice for France.
You
go, this isn't working.
Coming off the bench and
exactly.
Ramos going to 15 and then
Yeah,
you'd rather have someone like Oscar Jegu or Paul Boudon, basically an athletic back row playing wing or centre. Yeah, that's going to suit you guys a bit better. Which is what could happen.
What could happen, right?
You could have a flanker playing up against the guy that won Six Nations Player of the Year last year, which could be interesting.
But also, when you announce a 7-1 split, these people are professional athletes, the professional rugby players, they're intelligent. you think if the opposition have announced a 7-1 in the changing room before the game, you'd be thinking, in a sporting way, injure some backs.
I think everyone's trying to do that to DuPont anyway, though, aren't they?
Yeah, but you're not going to get hold
Doesn't
of
need
him
to be
properly.
him.
But you exactly whichever one is the weakest and the slowest, whichever one finds themselves in open land, eating grass, minding their own business, get that guy.
Who in that Italian team are you happy to sacrifice a 20-minute red card? Who's your kind of? Is there someone who's going to get picked out of Rovigo suddenly on the flank as just someone with a patchy disciplinary record has suddenly been selected?
We've got just the guy. His name is Battista Ville. He plays for Zebre Parma. He's a number 7.
He's a nut job.
And that's your man. Yeah. That is exactly a man for the job.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye out for any surprise team announcement. Is he in the wider squad or is he just
no.
hitman?
Pretty sure he's Argentinian, but he does qualify, I think, for Italy.
Okay.
But,
through his grandparents, but he's got massive blonde locks.
Yeah, very easy to spot.
It's basically like as if someone's like wound him up like a toy before the game and they just let him go.
But he's phenomenal. He's fantastic. If I'm the Pumas coach, I'm watching him because he's so good.
He's either winning the game or he's getting a red card. Yeah. It could be both. You don't know.
Excellent. We need more of that.
what I wanted to ask about, I wanted to talk. You mentioned the back three. I wanted to talk about Tommaso Allan, Tommy in my eyes, because he's still Scottish.
Yeah.
I think he's really, really good. I would put him in the top 5 at the very least goal kickers in world rugby.
But where did that come from? When did that happen?
He didn't used to be.
The World Cup seems to be when he got good.
Yeah.
But he's been brilliant since then.
Well,
I think he missed one at the weekend, but
he had 100% record in the World Cup. He had 100% record
in the autumn tests.
And he didn't miss against Scotland.
Missed a couple against Wales.
Yeah, but he also slotted some
tricky ones.
Gems against.
No. I mean, it's phenomenal for us. And one of the main things that I've said for years is that Italy needs to find, for a nation that's very good at football, they need to find a decent kicker, because the amount of games that Italy have just thrown because they've not had a reliable kicker. And out of literally nowhere, Tommy Allan has just appeared and gone like, that is what I do now.
Well, it seems like fullback really suits him, which I think started at Harlequins.
Yes.
They played him at fullback a little bit.
He played a bit of fullback because of Marcus Smith. And then at Perpignan, he's been playing a bit of both. Their first choice 10, Jake McIntyre, had a big injury and he's kind of only just come back. And I think then they signed kind of a guy that Ronan Loughnane, his former teammate, referred to as the French Finn Russell, a guy called Antoine Ocaña. And I think they might both be injured because they've just signed on loan a very young Toulouse fly half. But Allen's attacking game last year at Perpignan became really good as this kind of attacking fullback. Like, they've really struggled to score tries this year, but last year they played some brilliant attacking rugby, and he seemed to be at least the beneficiary of it, if not part of it.
Well, I think
he was scoring tries, he was kicking goals. Yeah. It does make it, like the Scotland game, for example, it made that a lot tighter than it could. Yeah. Scotland's discipline has been dreadful for years.
19-0 to come back.
To come back basically through penalties is a big thing. And obviously, harking back to the France game last year, it was a missed penalty that lost it.
Carry on. Well, I was just going to say another thing that's working really well as a result of Tommy Allan's kicking being as reliable as it is that I think it has taken a lot of pressure off of Garbisi so that he can play like he plays in open play, I think, without the thing in the back of his head of like, oh God, and I have to convert these kicks, which I think he was struggling with last year in the Six Nations, having found Tommy Allan, because Tommy Allan didn't play in the last Six Nations. He took time off.
Because Garbisi doesn't kick a lot for Toulon.
It's Baptiste Serran now, which was news when he started kicking this season, was news to me that he was even a kicker. But
is there anything he can't do? Imagine being that good and not being picked for a national side. It's just that's so ridiculous. He's so good at rugby.
Yeah. Rich, what are your views on, I guess that links us, what are your views on Garbisi at Toulon then?
Well, I feel like we differ on this. I'm keen to get an Italian fan's perspective, because I love Paolo Garbisi. I think I like the sort of, I wouldn't say, I think Mercurial's probably a little bit unfair because he's achieved a lot already, but I like the slight inconsistencies. I quite like the fact that he's, you think of him, the famous win at the Millennium Stadium, it's him like rolling around in tears. It's him rolling around in tears last year when he hit the post. Like just a little bit of drama seems to follow him, which I admire. But I always think it felt like from afar when he came in to the Italy side for the first time, he was maybe what they'd been missing for a while.
Yeah.
But at Toulon, they're going great guns this year, and he's played a lot at 10, but I wouldn't say he's always been at the forefront of certainly some of their better performances. And Rob, I know you're a little bit to be convinced, but I was looking at this earlier. I didn't realise he's still only 24.
He's
he's achieved a lot.
He got played basically as a baby.
Yeah.
Like 19, wasn't he?
It was Franco Smith, and he'd only played, I think it was only 3 games of professional rugby before debuting in the Six Nations as a starting.
Yeah, it was
10.
mental. At one point, I think by the end of the first Six Nations that he played more international games than he'd played professional URC club games. That's
which is something
mental
that Franco Smith, who got a lot of stick at the time and a lot of stick before he went to Glasgow about, but it was a long-term thing where they got battered because he played a bunch of children, but those children then a couple of years later went on to beat Wales when no one expected them to, and they wouldn't have beaten Wales if they hadn't had the experience that Franco Smith gave them. So it all worked out well. But yeah, he's been playing for. He's much younger. Yeah, he's 24.
Yeah.
That means, Rich, when we saw him in that Montpellier v Quins game, he would have been 21 then.
Yeah, and he was the starting fly half for Montpellier. Won the
Pollard was injured.
Pollard was on the
bench in the final.
Yeah, he kept him on the bench at the age of 21.
Mental.
There's a lot going on. But is he, as like a fairly fair weather Italy watcher, is he as integral as we would think, like if he
like
clicks,
a Sexton or
Russell? I'm going to say yes and no, but I'll explain my answer. Well, no. Yes, he is.
You're working.
Yes, he is at the minute but if he gets hooked, then Tommaso Allen will go to 10 if something happened to him. So that's the cover they've got now. They've got a couple of incredibly talented 10s. And the issue I've got is, when are those guys going to get the game time to be able to really put themselves forward as a potential Italian 10? That's the issue. Right now, yes, he's integral. But I think a player at Benetton, Leonardo Marin, given the opportunity, could be a Paolo Garbisi.
The tricky thing, when Garbisi left, Marin was kind of just coming up, and we were like, okay, it kind of opens up space for him. Now we've got Thomas Albanos, who's one of the best fly halves in the world,
and they're still finding ways to get Marin in the squad, but he's always in there as sort of a utility back at number 23, 22, and he's so not going at 10. But that just shows the quality of him. You can put him anywhere in the backs, and he'll. But
I think, in answer to the question, well, because there are a couple that are good, but they're nowhere near as, I think, like reliable as Paolo Garbisi, with the experience that Paolo Garbisi has. There's nobody else. There isn't. Tommy Allen, sure, but
well, for Italy, yeah. I mean, Leonardo Marin's beat Edinburgh, Glasgow a couple of years ago, and last minute. One was a drop goal from 40 metres out, and he was basically a teenager.
He's great, but the point is he's just not had enough game time at 10. So actually, I think Garbisi is.
But Garbisi, I'm going to say, hasn't quite exploded into the player that I think most people were hoping he was going to be. And I don't think that's rude or mean, and hopefully that will happen. But no, he's not. This isn't the Garbisi. When he was 21, 22, when he was at Montpellier, I was hoping that we'd see more from him.
But he's still 24.
Now.
Yeah, I think he is still young. Like
2 years younger than Marcus Smith, I think, which is whether he has a G-Wagon, I don't know. But.
Yeah, probably doesn't.
A lot of nice watches, I think.
I think with Garbisi, I think I'm split on Garbisi because I've seen him play really, really well, and I've seen him be very, very peripheral and just anonymous. And I think the point on when he went to Montpellier, that would have been a club that would have suited him growing as a fly half. But at Toulon, we've mentioned him already, like Baptiste Serran is the man, and you don't necessarily need a 10 like Garbisi taking control the whole time. And we've seen it with France. I've been quite critical of Roman Ntamack for kind of the same reasons of just being a bit peripheral. And
that's quite French rugby though, isn't it? It's then they call it like Le General or whatever.
Yeah, but I still think you see some, like when Ramos will be playing 10 this weekend, it looks like, and I feel like he still takes more control as a fly half than Ntamack, and I think Jalabert takes more control than Ntamack and like a Garbisi. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just traditional Anglo kind of want my fly half to be a George Ford or a Finn Russell or a Johnny Sexton or a Dan Bigger that's kind that's kind of in charge, the man.
Mm.
Maybe.
But then I've seen it with the Premier Sports.
But I have seen it with Garbisi.
Garbisi did an amazing crossfield kick, which led to a try, and the commentator credited Baptiste Saran for it. So maybe Saran
maybe he's been doing it, and I've just been duped by. Rich, do you have any more questions on kind of Italy? I guess.
Well, I wanted to. Maybe it's a bit premature, but I wanted to know your prediction for the weekend, and assuming it's that Italy are going to win, how are they going to do it? Other than sending that rogue lad out from Zebre on a killing mission.
I don't like predicting when I don't think they're going to win.
Oh no!
I think the scrum. You mentioned it. The scrum is we've been doing a little Six Nations bingo, and the amount of times that the big French pack gets called out is just extraordinary. They were 11 kilos collectively heavier than the England pack, and yet the whole game was like, oh, England doing so well against that big French pack. It's like they're the same size. Like,
and they haven't scrummaged, or they haven't been a scrummaging force for a little while. In France.
For like a couple of years now, because Antonio is fading.
Done.
He is a little bit.
And Colomb going backwards metaphorically and literally. And then if they're bringing in Azzurri, like he's
fallible.
So the Italian scrum, you've got two loose heads in Fischetti and Spagnuolo, who's back. Spagnuolo was banned. Such a horrific Italian rugby thing. This is as Italian rugby as it sort of gets. It's all going well. Everything's fine.
Christmas derby,
Zebre versus Benetton, and then Spagnuolo crocodile rolls Zambanin, his mate.
Would have definitely been called up for the Six Nations. Best
destroys his leg, so ruins Zambanin's chances of playing in the Six Nations, and himself gets banned in like one move.
Wow.
And it's like, great. Well,
nice one, derby at Christmas.
In the derby at Christmas.
It's like at least something united all the fans.
Yeah.
Sounds like he needs to be signing for Racing 92.
Yeah, I felt for him though. He was really gutted about it.
But he's very good at scrummaging, is he?
Super. His debut against England, he crunched the England scrum.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's so good in open play. And Fischetti's on fire at the minute. So the two loose heads.
Fischetti was brilliant against Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're both sort of turnover merchants as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got that. And then on the other side of the scrum, it's always been Riccioni's been the guy. But then of late, Ferrari of Benetton is just better.
Yeah.
He's kind of taking that spot. So that side of the scrum is now looking really, really solid. And in the past with Italy, it's been like you might have, these guys might be good, but the guys coming on after 60 minutes aren't quite at the same level. And for the first time for ages in Italy, especially with Spagnuolo coming back, there is no drop-off.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no drop-off.
Same with the hookers as well.
Well, the hookers...
You guys were saying last week, like, they're basically the same player.
Well,
I think Lucchese's been brilliant at Toulon this season.
Yeah. Well,
you guys probably have a better idea.
Of how they're doing than us, but they're the same age, same number of caps, similar style. Both came from the same Benetton setup for the last few years. So
because I think when the first game it came out and Lucchese was on the bench and Nicotero was starting, because Nicotero has been pretty average, like good and bad. Like he's looked really good in some games, but a bit like Stade Francais generally, to be honest. And I kind of was trying to work out like whether it was like, Nicotero has like done a bit of captaincy, hasn't he? So it's like, is this guy 75 caps and Lucchese's like 25, 30? And actually, no, they're not. They basically have like, it's like one or two different or something. Yeah.
I think they're basically exactly the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
Their career is basically like that.
Yeah.
For the listeners, Eddie is holding his hands at the same level and slowly moving them up.
Yeah, but it's true. When they first announced it in the sort of the back chat was how weird that they've chosen him over Lucchesi to start because on paper Lucchesi was having a better season.
And then you've got the second row, which is the area that I would like to see Italy have some more beef.
Well, unfortunately, the guy who was the obvious backup has been injured.
But that's the area when I look at the Italian pack and I go, they're missing there a little bit. Their second rows are a bit light. Even Nicola Canone is a bit light. So the three second rows are probably going Rutzer, who's amazing in the air, Nicola Canone, and then you're probably getting Dino Lamb on the bench. Or is he injured? He's just gone back to Harlequins.
He's injured.
In which case you might be getting a debutant type in Canale from Zebre, who's pretty decent. But again, it's a big game.
Yeah, no, it's tricky.
Favretto for Benetton.
You'd get him.
Favretto.
Rutzer and Canone are the guys, aren't they? Like they've been kind of like with Garbisi brought in from a young age to develop in the role, I guess.
Yeah, and they're phenomenal. But then that's kind of the issue there is when one of them has to go off, the person coming on. If it was Zambenin, there'd be no worries, but he's unfortunately been injured.
France are actually going into this game with two recognised second rows for the first time this tournament, which is impressive to not pick two second rows, but never mind. And Flamont was brilliant before he got injured, and he is obviously a very talented player and he's been relied upon in that side. But Guillard as well is a player that we both really, really like. Brilliant on the tour to Argentina last year and just physical. He's played a bit number 8 for Lyon, so like he can carry pretty hard.
Nice.
He looks amazing in like a camel skin trench coat and like wire rim glasses.
Yeah, they cut to him in the stands in Lyon a couple of weeks back, and he looked unbelievable.
Wouldn't be caught dead in a G-Wagon.
No.
He's like
sort of classical Italian number, I imagine.
Yeah.
I think with the selection, it will be a closer game than it might have been. I think the big factor, because France 3 games ago or whatever, beat the All Blacks. They were playing some really good rugby and they seem to have got settled again. I personally quite like Ramos at 10. I think I'm fairly split between whether you go him or Jalabert. I think he's argument that he's the second best player in the world behind Antoine Dupont. But I think the big difference to last year is Tony D, the man at number 9, because he wasn't there and he is, I think Ronan O'Gara a few years ago now probably called him a 14-point difference having Antoine Dupont in your...
Well, true. And also last year, obviously France got a card as well. Did they not?
Dante, maybe.
And someone went off. And that's why that kick was so bloody important. But however, the difference there is the French team, I think, from the outside, kind of looks like it's peaked a little bit and is now not sure exactly what's going on because they didn't win the World Cup they were supposed to win. Whereas the Italian side is finding winning ways. So I expect the Italian side to be this Italian side should beat the Italian side last year if it was a video game and you put them against each other. And also last year, the Italian side had Favretto playing in the back row because they had so many injuries in that department. So,
I think this France team is better than the one from last year. Like Antoine Dupont is a huge part of that. There was such a big hangover from that World Cup. Like emotionally, like Aldrit has looked knackered for basically until like the last couple of months, until he got dropped after the All Blacks game. He's looked like just knackered, whereas now he's back playing some really good rugby, and that some of their more physical players are back looking physical and angry, which I think is the difference. And that is...
Do you buy into the old-fashioned, imagine if you will, that we are pundits who used to play
You're Lawrence
rugby
Dallaglio or Brian Moore. I can feel it.
I want
Jerry Guscott.
I think we're going to go with Brian Moore.
Stuart Barnes.
Stuart Barnes, fine, perfect.
I feel like I'm quite a Stuart Barnes.
Let's be Clive Woodward.
Okay.
All right, and I'm going to say, well, the thing you remember about France is they're very emotional, and that they lost, and so you can expect their heads to go, and they won't really be in the game against Italy because they've mentally checked out of the tournament.
Well, that's the thing about France. You don't know whether they're going to turn up. Which France is going to turn up.
Yeah.
That is definitely that's on our bingo card, I think. The Italy one's fun because there's no British fans, so they'll be rolling out all the facts.
Yes,
we will definitely hear about the fact that Thibaut Flamand played fly half for Loughborough 5-15. We'll hear all about the different countries that, like, overseas territories that these players are from in France.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Born, whatever, so and so born.
Ross Vincent was a pizza driver.
Yeah,
we'll get all of them.
Yes.
If France lose, I'm going full Gaultier out. They've got you're right. They've peaked, or the current iteration has peaked, but a lot of these guys are still late 20s. They are in their prime, and they're regenerating and refining form, and the talent that they've got does still outweigh Italy's talent.
Absolutely. I think that's it. I mean, I'd love to predict that Italy will win. My heart
Italy
wants
to win by
predict
6.
Let's go with that. Why not?
Like it.
But realistically, if France were to lose, I mean,
The thing that's different with this Italy side than the Italy sides of old, even this same side, but of old, is that if this Italy side is in with a sniff with 15 minutes to go, they can do it. Whereas teams in the past, the old players, if they were in it with 15 minutes to go, well, in the last 10 minutes, whoever it is running away with it. And this team a few years ago, if they've got it with 15 minutes to go, they will probably cock it up one way or another. But now it's a very, very different. They've got a different hungry mentality and professionalism and discipline, everything that comes with it. It said, like, last year they could have beaten France if that kick went over, but then flip side to that was a year or two before that they beat Australia by conceding a try in the last play of the game, and then Australia missed the kick.
Yeah. I guess the difference is, just go back to it, is the goal kicking, isn't it? You've got Allen as a reliable one, and you've got Pajarello, who's capable of knocking them over from 50.
Yeah.
But then it's also the experience. So if you go back to Italy-Scotland last year, Scotland had possession 79 minutes. They hung onto the ball for 3 minutes. If Italy gave away a penalty, they were fucked. It was over. And Italy managed to keep them out for the entire time and then win the game. And I think the experience of not someone missing a kick and you win the game at the death, but actually winning a game at the death sticks with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that game's in the balance. One game that possibly might also be in the balance later down the line is Cast v Benetton in the Champions Cup. If we do a little bit of preview of that, are you guys going?
I think so.
Probably.
The only issue is
how do I get there? Fly to Toulouse.
Fly to Toulouse.
We
went to
Limoges and we went to
Brive on the Friday night, and then it's like a 3-hour train though.
Oh.
But I've got better news for you guys.
Go
on.
You
can fly to Toulouse, and Toulouse flights are generally quite cheap, which is good news.
Good.
But on that weekend, Friday the 4th of April, it may end up being a Thursday, but I doubt it. Colomiers are at home to Nevers, and Colomiers are currently in 7th, so they're in touching distance of the barrage. They may be in the barrage by the time we get round to round 25 of Pro D2, but Colomiers is in the outskirts of Toulouse. We've not been to Colomiers, but I would, or for any Benetton fans generally, if they're listening to this, fly to Toulouse, go watch Colomiers on the Friday night.
Nice.
And then Cast is, how long was the train?
Hour on the train.
An hour.
Okay, easy.
Cast is lovely. Rich, any tips for Cast?
Oh, it's small, but it's very pretty. We had quite a nice meal on the Sunday.
Oh yeah, give us
a few nice
restaurant recce's.
Bars.
Nice.
We did get sent a list of restaurants by Will Collier, the former England prop. A couple of which on the river look genuinely delightful.
Lovely.
Seems to have done. That was in September as well, so he'd been there about a month and a half. He'd done some serious eating of steak in that time.
That's great.
Very pretty, fantastic stadium, a lot of fun. And between us, we can say we were pretty pleased with that draw in terms of kind of the knockout stages. Yeah.
Like in the sense that they're all going to be hard.
So they're all going to be tough.
They're all going to be tough. There's no but if you're like, if I had to choose one, I would choose that one.
I think that's fair enough, not least given. I mean, Cast.
Robert definitely disagrees.
Yeah.
Well, they're sixth in.
He thinks they're going to pump Benetton mercilessly for 80 minutes.
Well, they may well do.
They're currently on like an unbeaten run post
They haven't
new
lost
coach.
this
So
year,
they've not lost in 2025.
including beating
Saracens,
Saracens away
yeah.
with their like under 15s, which was quite.
Meanwhile,
a turn
Benetton
up.
have just been doing this all season, but they beat La Rochelle, so we're riding high off that in Europe.
Yeah,
I think the old cast.
I think the old cast, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're in a bit of a purple patch at the moment, and
But
they're
you know,
actually
but these
quite-
French teams, Richard, these French teams, remember, they don't take Europe seriously.
They don't.
Yeah.
So
Cast were the most perfect example of that. I don't think they'd won a game in the Champions Cup since 2018, and they snuck past Munster in the first game. They kind of went full strength in that game, snuck past in one of the lowest quality affairs you'll ever see. So sort of got through accidentally, and then beat the Bulls, who sent their reserves, then sent their a load of blokes who hadn't played all season to Saracens.
They had to recall someone from the Sevens setup.
Yeah, there was all sorts going on.
Who's now a regular.
So French. I love that so much.
But they are going pretty well, and they don't lose that many at home. But if French teams to go and play, you'd probably rather go there than have to stay in Toulouse or something like that. If you can make a weekend of it, Toulouse is, as Rob tested.
I've never been.
City.
That's what I think we should.
Bars in the world is in Toulouse. Nabucodonosor is on. We did
I'm saving it right
now. There is a reel
now.
somewhere on our Instagram, but Nabucodonosor, we've mentioned it loads. There is a sticker of ours in the unisex loo.
Love it. Right now.
I just think on Cast, when the fixtures got drawn, it's like, oh, where are the away wins coming from? And everyone was like, oh, well, Benetton probably have got a chance at Cast. And it was all the likes of Stuart Barnes and Lawrence Delalio and all those people dialing it in. But Cast have only lost once this year, and that was it was a horrible game, but it was to Bordeaux, who were on fire at that time. Cast do not lose that many at home. They're so well organised, and they've just got such a good set piece, and they are pulling it together. They're now playing some great rugby as well, but I just think wins at the Stade Pierre-Fabre are not easy. It's an amazing place as well.
But maybe they'll be playing so well that they'll be complacent, and maybe they'll find themselves in a place in the top 14 where they really actually think they need to rest some players.
That's
Hang on
the
a
better
minute.
team these days.
But maybe they'll go, hang on, who are these dickheads showing up? They just lost 43-0 to the Ospreys.
Why are you mentioning that? Well, we do such a good job plugging Italian rugby. Then you just say that Benetton lost 43-0.
They beat La Rochelle and then went and lost 43-0 the following week.
How's that for you do that one week and then the next week you do that?
I think they're hustling. Maybe they're
Quite
hustling.
French, that.
So French. So French. That's been Benetton. Benetton, I don't know what is going on there. But hopefully they sort it out. Because in Europe, they've been going quite well. They deserve to beat Bristol, and I think they were a little bit robbed there, which would have given them that home advantage.
That would have been it. That would have been a home Champions Cup playoff if that try was
beat Bath, beat
allowed
Bristol,
to exist.
beat La Rochelle. Sorry, didn't beat Bristol, lost to Bristol, but should have beaten Bristol. So in Europe, they've been going all right. But yeah, it's going to be tough. But we're looking forward. It's not all about the rugby. It's about the experience. And we're looking
I love
forward
our
to
trips
it.
to France.
Yeah.
The ground is cool.
You'll have a great
The
time.
It's great as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. And I think we will do, if we fly into Toulouse, actually make a long weekend of it and do, a day in Castres and then spend time in Toulouse. I just want Benetton, I'm not expecting miracles, but I'd just like them to do better than they did the last time we went to watch them in France, where they were nailed in Toulon.
Well, one thing I can say on that, as someone who follows Cast and supports them a little bit, is that Cast very rarely seem to pump teams, with the exception of the Bulls. They do. It tends to be quite a tight game, usually within 5 or 10 points. So,
that's interesting because actually Benetton are the opposite of the Italian side when it comes to that. If Benetton need a massive lead.
Yeah, at least four tries to be comfortable. 2 won't do. 2 they'll lose. 3 they'll lose.
If they're 14 points ahead and there's 10 minutes left, you're like, this
is awful.
Might not be enough.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cast, of course, got scope to completely fall apart as well. They love it. They love a yellow card.
Well, so do we.
It's all set up to be an absolute blockbuster.
I think who cares about the France?
Not as much as Zebre. Zebre really love a yellow card. and a red card. When they beat Edinburgh, they played with 13 men.
Well,
It's been great.
I was just going to say.
Arrivederci, is that the right one?
Yeah,
See.
Grazie mille for having us on the podcast. It's been a blast.
Thank you for joining us, guys.
No.
It's been,
Grazie mille.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
been
like I've
so
learned
fun.
a lot about. I want to get to the line out lifting beer. That sounds
Honestly,
amazing.
That is good
it's
fun.
really good fun. We'll send you a video.
It's almost more fun watching people do it than doing it.
And if people, I'm sure loads of people are all massive fans of you already, but for those that want to find you or know more about you, where can we find you?
So Spritz and Scrums, our stuff is on Spotify, and our Instagram channel is where it's at.
It's where it's at.
And you guys are on X?
We are on X. It's a very different voice that you'll get from Spritz and Scrums, whether it's X or Instagram. So the Instagram is slightly homoerotic because Ellie does it and she's got no filter. And then my on X, to get into the vibe of X, it's quite a grumpy voice.
Yeah. I've been telling him he needs to get off. He needs to just move over, go to Blue Sky or wherever, because every time, I don't touch X.
It's a toxic environment, and we fully embrace the toxicity of X even though it's not good for my mental well-being.
But yes,
TikTok, you guys on TikTok?
We are, and anything can happen in TikTok because Coach does that one.
TikTok is the Wild West, so we hold absolutely no responsibility for whatever goes on that TikTok.
Once in a while, I'll put stuff on TikTok, but Coach mainly mans it, and he does whatever the hell he wants.
And you are at Spritz and Scrums on all of them.
On all of them,
Yes.
Spritz and Scrums, you'll find us there. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts.
But Instagram is actually is the main one.
Yeah. I feel like I'm learning a lot about Italian rugby via your Instagram.
Thanks. Well, I feel like I'm learning a lot about French rugby.
Yeah, I just learned that Benetton are going to lose to Castle. That's what I've just learned.
Anyway, for another time, we need to get back out to Italy, definitely.
Yes. Let us know if you are planning on going. We'll send you tips, or hopefully we'll be able to go out for a game together.
Maybe we should do a little, Rich, we should do a little cast Benetton fans post for that weekend. We are going to do some at some point for the weekend generally, because the scope for Champions Cup stuff when there's Pro de on or Nacional is just it's such an easy way to do a couple of great different experiences and different towns which all have their own different vibe and food and stuff like that. But yes, thank you very much, guys. You've been very generous with your time. Looking forward to the weekend. Best of luck. But yes, we will be back next week with all of the French rugby that anyone could ever need. But until then, au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.